Welcome to yet another episode of Shortcast Over Coffee. My guest today is Jagan Krishnan. Jagan is a stand up comedian and writer based in Chennai and is currently touring the world with his comedy show Jagane Thandhiram. In this episode, I talk to Jagan about his early days in comedy, his writing, and his love for Tamil cinema and music, and also the stand up comedy scene in regional languages. So let's now get on with the episode. Hi, Jagan. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Bala, for inviting me. Yeah,
I actually got to know of you, like I think most people, through the Harris Jairaj viral video. And
yeah,
I'm pretty sure you have heard of this so many times. I watched a couple of interviews of yours where the interviewer was like, "Oh, we discovered you through the Harris Jairaj video." And I don't know how many hits it has got. It just went viral. And I think one of the most particular things about the video is that you were not just going through his songs, but you were singing them so well, and that I think was one of the USPs of that piece. And funny enough, I also had this thought about Harris Jairaj, that a lot of his songs are very similar. They have a very choir or a gospel vibe about them. But I think in one of your interviews, you say a joke is a joke only if it is delivered. If a joke is in your head, then it's not a joke. So I
true.
think, yeah, and I think you perfectly summed it up. So congrats on that. I think that really did play a huge part in you becoming very popular on the internet. I'm sure you were quite popular in the comedy circles in Chennai, but how much of an impact did that video have in your life?
Well, that video is like basically that's my arrival card, my identity, and it has become such way. And every comedian needs that break, right? I'm glad that it happened. It's technically my second video, but right now, according to YouTube, that's going to be my first ever stand-up video. But that technically became my what can I say? My uh,
Postcard,
it,
sort of.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. It announced the arrival in a very good way. And my friends, comedic friends, used to say the same thing to me, like people who have been doing this and people who have been watching this for some time. So it's the impact of the first video, that's like when people get introduced to you. That is something that you need to value the most. So don't be in a hurry, don't be in a rush to release the first video. Take your time, do it properly. When it comes out, it has to come out and it has to go with the bang, because once people start liking and once people start the best of you, once people see the best of you, then automatically it gives some sort of a leverage for you to do the next one better or try something different. And even if you fail, there will be some people who will always know that, okay, this guy has done some good stuff. So now, maybe he might have slipped here and there. That's fine. I think he'll come back again. So that's why I'm very careful with my videos. And that Harris Jaraj video, I think it took a while for me to even. There were a lot of other versions of the same exact bit. It went through multiple iterations, and I think I kept improving on it for close to 1.5 years, I think. So and then finally I decided, okay, this is when it has to go, and then it went. And luckily it worked. Luckily it resonated with a lot of people. And of course, even in that video, I would have told, please do not consider this as a musician's perspective. This is somebody who failed as a musician, and who is who is literally envious and jealous of all the successful musicians out there, and just want to make light-hearted fun regarding the same. And that's exactly the video. Glad it did well, and glad it resonated well. And kudos to everybody who worked on that video, including the sound guy who made me sound good. Sridhar, big up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like I said, one of the things that was standing out in the video is how well you sang. Did you have any formal training in music? You play guitar pretty well, but how did you start with that?
Same. Whatever I mentioned in the video, it all started sometime. I learned guitar again. I didn't learn it properly. I learned vocals again. I didn't learn it properly because there is something that is so restricting about proper formal education that was not very attractive to me. So the like I was the naive over enthusiastic, overzealous kid, no? Like the minute you go and buy a guitar from the shop, you just want to be the next rock star, get into the band and then sing. It doesn't matter whether you know anything or not. All you need to know is like just learn three chords and go and play the songs. That's how I was. It is absolutely and it's a ridiculous approach. You should never do that. That is exactly what I tell to a lot of people now also. So I did have training. I did have formal training with respect to vocals, and then with respect to guitar as well. And yeah, I would say like it's just an okay kind of training. Here and there, few years here and there. That's it.
Yeah, we all do that, don't we? I mean, someone who starts off with, let's say, cricket, who wants to become a batsman, they think that they can just go in and bat, but, the process is so much more important. Maybe you will be made to run around the oval for like, three times, or you maybe, yeah, I've heard from budding cricketers that they are usually made to field for the most of their initial days, and it's kind of important to fall in love with the process. And a lot of the times when we look up to musicians, or anybody for that matter, who has achieved something in life, we never sort of realize what all they went through to become who they are. And so yeah, I think I am also someone similar who has fallen in love with the art, but did not quite like the process.
Same thing. Even in cricket, I did the same thing. I did go to cricket coaching. I did go for 3 4 years. I used to shadow bat and shadow bowl all the way up to my school and then back home. So I used to commentate on my own innings, imaginary innings where I'm playing for India in the finals in the World Cup. All those things I've done, the whole nine yards. But then, like exactly what you said, that's what differentiates professionals and amateurs. The you everybody's an amateur. You go, you learn for some time because it's very exciting initially. Then you get into the process, then you realize that okay, it's not as fun as what you thought it would be. And then you have to do the dirty work, you have to grind yourself, you have to change your entire life to fit into that particular thing because you want to be good at it, you want to be better at it. I think that's where it gets alienating for a lot of people. And the same thing happened to me. I still regret it. I still regret not being a cricketer, not being a musician, not being in a band, a little bit here and there. But I understand that there is nobody else is at fault except me. So it's completely up to me. I should have had the result. So when I was playing cricket, I didn't have the result. I just went to like cricket coaching. I'll go for physical conditioning in the morning, and then evening I'll go to the usual net practice and everything. And it is just a like some kind of a regular mundane schedule. It's like going to school and coming back. Not really passionate about it. The minute I left cricket, and then 2 years later, I identified, oh, this is what I was supposed to do, because that's when I realized what I was actually supposed to do. And yeah, I mean, I was at fault, and I realize that's what happens to most of us, right? We realize it a couple of years later, or maybe 3 4 years later, that okay, this is what I should have done. Now I realize, but now it feels like it's too late, so we cannot go back there. That's what
Yeah.
happened with music, that's what happened with cricket, and that's what happened with so many other things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think growing up in the 90s, we all thought about playing cricket for India at one point or the other, hitting that last ball six to win the match. Like you just get out of the shower and you are like, oh my God,
Yes,
there is Alan Donald or someone bowling and I'm going to smash them out of the park. And then
exactly.
debut at the age of 16 or whatever. And then you slowly grow up, you hit 16 and you have not done anything in life, and then you're like,
Anything, yeah.
well, someone else debuted at 20, Irfan Pathan debuted at 20, so there is still a chance, but well, it just didn't happen,
Exactly.
I
That's it.
guess.
Life happens after that. Life happens for some weird reason. So, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's good in one way, but at the same time, that's never going to leave us. Like what you said, we'll always be the man of the match in the World Cup. And then the funniest thing was, I was not that good at spoken English back then. So the one thing that I feared the most was going to the presentation ceremony and then talking in English to Ravi Shastri, as if I've accomplished everything else apart from that in cricket. So the one thing that I used to do was I used to sit down and write my acceptance speeches, like they are presenting me the man of the match award. So I used to take phrases from Mohammad Azharuddin, what Ajay Jadeja is speaking, what Sachin is speaking, Dravid, and everything. I have to like form sentences, and then I used to memorize that. And this is, I mean, looking back at it right now is funny, but I can't believe how stupid I was back
Yeah, we all have done it. I mean,
then.
what is so funny is when you are going through that process, you don't realize. You feel like you are the only one, and then once you grow up, and then once you are in your 20s or whatever, and you talk to other people, and it's eerily similar. The thought process, everything is
Yeah.
so similar.
Mm.
It's crazy. I mean, especially the 90s. I mean, the 90s cricket was something else, wasn't it? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
all these guys.
Just look at the footages back then. No, it looks like a sea of people are there. Even now, it's like houseful, but you don't get exactly that vibe. Back then, it was like crazy. It looks like okay. Anytime there's going to be a stampede in the stands or something like that, and the energy was on a different level. That too, we had not HD quality video and all back then. Normal, your whatever you want to call right now, 360p or 720p. That's what we got back then. The audio quality did not even capture the entire sound of the audience, but the vibe was altogether completely different. I mean, I look at the stands. Even they were not even chairs. I used to go to Chennai Stadium, MH Chidambaram Stadium, and all. It was just the stairs, the gallery kind of stairs, and people used to go berserk every four, every six, for every wicket and everything. Yeah, I mean, it's nostalgia, right? It's
There
nostalgia.
is a video on YouTube of a 1966 Test match. I forget between
Okay.
who and who. India, obviously, India and the West Indies. You should see the crowd in Chennai, like full packed stadiums, and I still remember. I mean, I still watch the footage of 1996 India Pakistan game in Bangalore. Uh, Crazy. I mean,
Oh,
that crowd is absolutely
oh,
crazy. And I think somewhere down the line, we have had so much cricket that there is just not. I mean, the enthusiasm has not caught up. And I think in the 90s, there were these triangular series, and I mean,
yeah,
series were not as many. So I think we just have that.
exactly,
Yeah. And watching cricket
exactly.
was also a community activity, I mean, not every
Yeah,
house had a television, so people from the
exactly.
neighborhood. So there was like a mini stadium kind of an experience. And talking about that, I think some of the theater companies, like the PVR cinemas and I don't know, Inox, they are all going to convert theaters into like a mini stadium, like a fan experience. And yeah, because I don't think the movies are doing pretty well, so they are like, we may
Anything,
start.
anything that gets people to the theaters. Yeah.
Yeah, like IPL, right? I mean, IPL, if you stream, it's okay. There's a lot of fandom for that. But yeah, things have changed dramatically, especially from the 90s. Yeah.
True.
Um, so again, typical engineer to comedian transition. I mean, I think there are a lot of you guys out there, right? Everyone did engineering, moved to comedy.
Yep.
But do you think writing was your fundamental passion, your fundamental love, or was it always comedy?
No, I think more than writing, I always had an interest in talking on stage in front of people with a mic because, like most of the kids, I like the attention that you get because you get on stage. I used to participate in a lot of this, oratorical competitions in school. Doesn't matter which language. I used to participate in English, Tamil, Hindi, and all. I used to participate. I have no idea, because my father speaks Hindi, so he'll write a speech and then I'll memorize it and then I'll go. All I wanted to do was just get on stage and then I want to talk. That's it. So because
Was the
it's a
was the
great
Hindi something like Bhagiraj's Hindi?
no, not he actually studied Hindi. So, but the way I spoke, maybe that heavy accent would have been there. It would have been like ek gaon mein ek kisan only. But he wrote proper Hindi because he knows and he speaks well. So I used to do that mainly because anything that got me on stage, where I can go and speak or even sing for that matter, or I can do something there, that attracted me a lot. I used to participate in that kind of events in almost every avenue that I got as a kid. There'll be this like colony association programs happening, and so everywhere I'll just give the name. I doesn't matter what event that is. I just want to go there, and especially if it is something where I have to get on stage and then I have to talk, that interested me so much. And Writing is something that I wanted to do, but I quickly realized that I'm not good at it. Because I started reading a lot. I used to read a lot in school. In college, that habit completely disappeared for me. I don't know why, because I was much more interested in roaming around, hanging out with friends, and everything. And once after college, when I had to travel for work, the travel itself will take a lot of time, 1 hour, 1.5 hours. So that's when I picked up the reading habit again, and that's when I got even more interest in writing something, which is basically short stories or episodic stories, something like that. I just wanted to do it always.
What were the things you read at the time?
No, a lot of Tamil books. That's when I got exposed to what we call as proper serious literature. Because in Tamil there is this bifurcation that always is there. One is called as the commercial literature, which is almost non-existent right now, and then there is people attribute something as serious literature. So there were a specific set of writers that you need to read. It's basically like graduating from your primary school to high school, no, that kind of thing. So that's when I started picking up literature. One thing led to another, and then I started reading all these novels. It had a such a huge impact. I realized, okay, stories are like this. It's not your typical uh, cinema kind of stories. It's not fake. These are real. Because sometimes you get to question like, why is that the end? That's not the end. That's not how it's supposed to be. Shouldn't the character come and save right now? Shouldn't there be a heroic moment? Or no? Then I realized like stories are basically vignettes of somebody's life, and that's what they represent it as, short stories. And it had such a profound impact. And every time I read a writer, I read their influences, and then I get to read something else. It might be from world literature, it might be from Tamil literature or something like that, or translated works from some other language. That's when I started thinking, okay, why can't we also dabble in writing? And then I started writing, and used to write in my office blogs and all. So I used to write funny blog posts, but sometimes I wanted to do something very serious, show myself as, oh my god, look at me, I'm like this artsy fartsy guy. But I very very quickly realized that, okay, I'm faking it. Uh, and that's also it like overlapped. The time I started wanted to be a writer, and the time I started pursuing stand-up comedy almost kind of overlapped. That's when I realized, okay, I do much better talking wise rather than writing wise, because writing was like I couldn't. My thoughts were running a lot more faster than my pen. So I realized, okay, maybe this is not for me. Let's stop it here. Let's try this, and that's how it worked. So, but some people might argue, like, even for a stand-up comedian, you have to be a good writer, but that's a whole other thing. This is not like the same as like proper writer kind of stuff, writing kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, writing has so many aspects to it, right? Like, some people who can think, like you said, you can think fast, but you can't completely put those thoughts on paper. And I mean, it also happens at work where some people are better communicators over email, some people talk well, some people have this, like, they can just talk. I mean, they can put words together so nicely. And I mean, the reason why I asked you about writing is I had GK on one of my episodes, and he loved writing first. So writing comedy was one of his first passions, and then he started to do stand up comedy. So, and I've heard about this relationship between writing and comedy from a lot of other people. And like you rightly pointed out, a good writer need not be a good comic, because I think comedy also has its own different layers, which we will get to eventually. But yeah. So coming back to
That's
your,
also
go ahead.
sorry for interrupting, but that's also the case actually. A lot of people. The one thing that I realized was written humor and then the spoken humor, or whatever you want to call it, stand-up comedy is not the same thing. So because there is a whole other grammar uh, for writing as such. So if you read somebody like Dave Barry, it sounds very funny when you read it, but when you read it out loud as a comedic routine, it will not be that impactful. So when I realized that, that's when I had to like make these kind of choice. Okay, when I write like this. but I cannot just memorize the same thing and then I have to go and perform, because it's not creating the same kind of impact that it created. Like when I hand out the paper to somebody and they read it and they thought it was funny. So when I'm going and doing, I realize that okay, I'm performing, and when I'm performing, the text is just a guide. It's just like an outline of what I'm going to say. The flavor is all there only when it comes to performance. That comes with voice modulation, your facial expressions, your body language, and all those things. So that difference is also the case. People mainly assume that people who write funny are generally funny people. I've met so many people who write amazingly funny stuff. I still remember an ex colleague who she used to write blog posts, and her posts were so funny. But when you go and talk to her, she's like, so I can't even say introverted, but she's very soft, she's just very casual, and just you will never realize that this is the lady who wrote such funny posts in the first place. So it's people like them. When I started meeting them, talking to them, and then when I started reading them, I clearly understood how comedy works in different spaces. So yeah, just wanted to like mention that. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's totally true. I mean, good writers need not make good comics, and I guess vice versa as well. Was there a trigger point where you realized that comedy is something that I'm good at? You know, I need to be serious about it. Was there a turning point in your life or an inflection point?
Ideally, the turning point should have been when I won the second place in my office comedy club event. So, I'm pretty sure you would have heard, but I just mentioned it briefly because I started doing stand up comedy uh, only during my office days. They used to have this thing called as comedy club in my office where they gather a few set of employees, and then there will be like mimicry artists, mime artists, stand up comedians,
But
and everybody.
stand-up comedy had not caught up back then, right? Like
It was, but it was at a very nascent stage. No, it was just coming up. It was just coming up, and it was not that popular. Also, it was
what
just
year are
coming
we
up.
talking about?
It should be 2014, 15.
Hmm.
If you look at that time, it was quite popular in Mumbai and Bangalore. It was like a very hot trending thing.
I think Kenny had
So
just started and all of that, right? Yeah.
everybody just started at that time. Kenny, Kanan, Biswa, and there was Praveen Kumar, Rajshekhar, and so many people like that. Vamsidhar was there, and Evam also came up during that time only. All we had KKSA, Bala, Rajiv, and all these guys. So Ashwin Rao. So everybody started that time only. Um, it was very hot trending thing. It was like how the startups were trending during the early 2009 2010. That kind of impact stand up comedy was having like 4 years later all over India, and in Tamil Nadu it was just beginning. We had few name comics, and of course the popular ones were KK and SA at that time, and SA was just becoming popular. He was just becoming that uh, comic, and KK already was famous, and he was already doing bigger shows. So they were all starting at that time. So that's when I started pursuing. I did this comedy club thing. So there was this grand finale that happened in front of 500 employees in my office, and Crazy Mohan, who's a great comedic writer and a screenwriter and playwright. So he was there as the chief guest for the event, and I got the like prize from him, the second place. For anybody, that should be the ideal trigger point when you write a story. That should be the trigger point, but that's not how it happened, because I realized that okay, this is a good. It's like a very good time. I just went and I performed, but then I realized don't get delusional. Okay, uh, you just got it. It's a fluke. It just happened, but that doesn't mean that you have to seriously pursue it. Stick to your first aim, which is to somehow travel to US. Uh, get on site, get visa, somehow travel to US. That was my aim back then. So I forgot about it. I forgot about getting the price and everything. Okay, it happened. So then what happened was I started getting calls from more and more teams from my company. So they started inviting me to little events, like some conference would go on. They'll ask me to come and break the ice with employees. Some team outing will happen. They'll call me. Some town hall meeting will happen. They'll call me. So I kept getting these calls again and again and again and again, and I'm pretty sure, I think that I was not that good back then, for sure. But a lot of people said, like, okay, of the other stand-up comedians that we invited, I think you sound pretty good, because I used to crack all the IT jokes and internal jokes back then. So they thought, okay, because they can relate it, I'm very funny. So they asked me to like pursue. This happened over a span of 3 months, something like that. And I also hosted a very big event in my company. Like, I did proper emceeing and hosting for a cultural event in my company, and the HRs were like full of praise. So I thought, okay. So they also said, like, okay, try this if you want to. And I already knew Manoj, because he was also part of the comedy club in my company. Manoj Prabhakar is another stand-up comedian from Chennai. So that's when I asked Manoj, like, how exactly do I go about this? What exactly should I do? I really want to try or dabble into stand-up comedy somehow, just to get the experience of it. And he introduced me to the open mic scene in Chennai, and it was a group called Chennai Comedy back then, and they used to conduct open mic quite regularly. And that's when, I don't know whether I started taking it seriously. That's when I started doing it regularly. So yeah, and it became much more serious when I switched to Tamil completely. So I was doing it in English back then. So English, and everybody was doing it, and just like a typical comedian coming up through any comedy scene, I was disgruntled, I was angry that I'm not getting the opportunity, that there is a big conspiracy against me, and people don't want me to grow, and all these stupid thoughts used to come and cloud my mind. But I switched to Tamil stand-up comedy around 2016. So I started doing open mic in 2014, 2015, I guess. Not 2014. 2015, it should be the correct year. 2015 is when I did the company event, and 2015 is when I started doing open mics. 2016, because a good friend of mine, Anna Malay, he started a group called Tanglish Comedy. I then switched to Tamil stand-up comedy. And then I realized a whole other venue getting opened for me. Like, I could see completely different market altogether. There is this huge reception that came for people who are very much interested to know how stand-up comedy can be done in Tamil, not the typical TV style stand-up comedy, right? So this is like whatever that we see in clubs and everything, but it's done in Tamil instead of English. Because back then, even in clubs, they will not prefer Tamil stand-up comedians, because they think that it's okay, that's kind of very local. We are little bit upmarket place and everything. So we actually went and tried, like, trying to do Tamil stand-up comedy, but you could not blame them, because their reference was completely different. Their reference was, okay, this is not something that we want something else. So that's when I when Tamil started opening up, when I started performing in Tamil, I then realized that all these kind of the premonitions that people will have, no, Tamil stand-up comedy is like this, it's not as good. So all these things are just fake, because people started embracing, everybody who used to come for the same stand-up comedy which we did in English, the same people came for the Tamil stand-up comedy show, because everybody knew Tamil. It was such a like, it's such an open idea. It was right there, but we didn't see it. So I think that's when I started taking it seriously, because when I started performing in Tamil, I felt much more comfortable, I felt much more natural. And then I realized, okay, now I can I can do whatever that I think is funny in exactly the way that I have seen people do it before me. So which is in Pattimandram, or which is in cinema movie dialogues, or in stage plays and everything. So now I realized that, okay, now okay, I'm part of this new grammar in comedy, and this grammar is very fresh. So when I present it in that way, with a bit of mixture from the usual Americanized stand-up comedy structure, it's going to look so fresh. And when people started appreciating me more and more for that, and that's when I started taking it seriously. And of course, the music came in later, and it changed my profile a bit more. So I think
Yeah.
multiple points, I can say. One
Mm.
thing led to another, chain reaction.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we all underestimate the power of regional languages. I was interviewing, I was, talking to Amit Verma, who is one of the biggest
Yeah,
podcasters
yeah,
in
yeah.
India,
Legendary podcast. Yeah.
legendary podcaster, and he was on my show, like the previous episode, and he mentioned to
Sorry,
me.
sorry for the interruption. Sorry for the interruption. How do you get time to listen to his podcast? Because they're like 5 hours, 6 hours, and then
So
sometimes, yeah.
I mean, this is a technique that I got from Krish Ashok, who was also on his show, and mine. Is that, listen to it in 2x, because they do this really profound, deep
Oh,
conversations,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, that's what he advises. And so I asked him, how do you listen to your own episodes? Is that once he gets his edits, he listens to them in 2x or 3x. And his
My
idea,
God,
yeah, and
he
his
edits. He edits.
no,
He
no, he
edits
doesn't. No, no,
4 hour pod.
he
Oh,
doesn't
okay, okay,
edit.
okay, okay.
He has an editor. His name is Gautam or Gaurav Chintamani. He was a guitarist for the band Advaita. Uh,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
so, uh,
Wow.
so he edits his podcast. But after the edit, he has to go through the edits once again, right? So that
Mhm.
he does in 2x speed is what I meant.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but
Extremely sorry for the digression. Yeah,
oh,
please
no, no, no.
continue.
That's totally fine. I'm not going to edit this. This is going to go on air. No,
Ah,
the thing is, it's actually fascinating, because one thing really hit me when he said is that, sometimes when you listen to something at 2x, you cover the same amount of material in half the time, and then the second thing is that brain has the capability to process more than I don't know, like 1,500 words per minute or something, and then it somehow just normalizes, is what he says, and I think it makes sense. I've tried listening to things at 1.5x. The only episode that I cannot is Krish Ashok's, because he speaks fast, and I cannot do 1.5 on his.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I mean, again, what a guy. I think he can speak at 1.5x. I mean, 5x of normal people, but still make sense and still be coherent
Yeah,
and still not, search for words and all of that, which is
exactly,
incredible. Yeah.
exactly. It's as though like he prepares a speech and then comes for every podcast. I mean, that blows my mind away. Yeah. I
Yeah.
had a chance to do interview him as well during one of the lockdown things. So when we were talking about food and everything. So of course I just finished Masala Lab and then I had a lot of questions I wanted to ask. It was fun. It was a really fun podcast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyway, coming back to the point where we started, Amit Verma, in one of my episodes, and in they have these conclave events, right? So he was saying that regional languages are really powerful, and we sometimes underestimate the power, because even though we learn English in school, some of us maybe spoke at home, English at home, is that ultimately we think in our regional language, we think in our mother tongue, so that becomes so much more relatable than in English. And there are some things, some jokes that would only make sense in Tamil, because I'm following Ravichandran Ashwin's YouTube channel and Krishnamacharya Srikant's YouTube channel. I mean, some of the things, I wonder if there is an English equivalent to it, and there isn't. So glad you switched to Tamil, and I think Tanglish is a great medium, because you can say some things in English, you can choose to say some things in Tamil, and all of that. So uh, yeah, I think so. The music came in later, and talking about music, did you have, like, were you a fan of any particular music director growing up, or like, were you a film music buff at all?
No, I will never call myself any buff at all. I used to listen to music primarily because that's what you do, right? I mean, uh, what else did we have for pastime? It's just like there used to be this channel called SCV that used to run in the background.
Pyramid
So
and all of that.
yeah, all those things. So it's just songs after songs after songs. A dizzying array of songs will play without even an ad break, without any host or anything like that, VJs or anything like that. So I used to listen to that. I used to because I used to sing back then. As I said, any opportunity to get me on stage and talk or sing in front of a mic, I'll do that. So I used to go get these cassettes, and then we also had this as a pastime wherein we used to go for this audio cassette shops, which are non-existent, or maybe they are here and there, few places only. Audio cassette shops where we pirate our own mixtape from latest film songs, all those things we used to do. So
Yeah, it was
that's
actually, we could get it done at 15, 20 rupees, and the new one would cost
exactly.
45, 50,
It-
which is a
yeah,
huge sum
yeah,
of
yeah.
money.
It doesn't
Yeah.
look expensive. Yeah, 15, 20 rupees. You guess you can just pick and choose the biggest hits. So that's also something that we can do. So the audio cassette guy, he will say, okay, this song is good from this movie. I just heard it. I'll mix this for you, and you get 5, 6 new songs. Then what I used to do was I go and listen back to it, and then I try to transcribe the lyrics to my knowledge, and that was the most challenging part. If you take some of the songs, it'll be very simple. Basically, if you take straightforward, if SPB or Yeshudas or somebody like that sings, you're of course going to get what the lines are. It's just very easy to transcribe. Then you get to deal with Udit Narayan and Shukwinder Singh, and that's when it becomes challenging. So that's when the lyrics get innovative. So these are all my pastimes. So somehow I grew up around music everywhere, and then listening to all these songs. So music was always a part, and I of course went to the class because my father and mother thought that I actually was singing well. Maybe, yeah, maybe, I don't know. So I used to go to music classes and all, but I was not at all interested in that structural kind of learning. You have to sit down, you have to do this thing. Is pointless for me because I was more interested in creating sounds rather than just repeating sounds. So I wanted to learn instruments. I wanted to learn flute or violin or something like that, wherein I can just, because that fascinated me even more. Like the very fact that you're taking this two pieces of wood, and then you're rubbing it against each other, and for some reason sound is coming.
It's quite
That
magical.
was
Yeah.
much more. Yeah, it felt very magical to me rather than just using your voice. I didn't realize what I had back then. Of course, if I did go through the proper training, maybe I would have been an amateur singer somewhere, singing chorus somewhere. But anyway, so that's what I realized. And because I grew up around music, it was always a part. I never felt it left me. I picked up guitar very late. Only during my college days I picked up guitar, and I picked it up mainly because of this band called Mother Jane. And it was an that is probably like one of the watershed moment for me with respect to independent music in India, at least I can say. Before
Baijo,
that, I
Dharmajan, all those guys.
Oh, thank you. You know Baiju Dharmajan, right? Yeah.
Of
To
course,
me,
of course.
he's the guitar god for me. So uh, uh, it's exactly Baiju Dharmajan who inspired me to take the guitar, because the first time I heard him play, the first time I heard Chasing the Sun, and then the solo hits you, right? And then I still remember listening to it in my friend's room, because he just wanted to introduce to all of us that there is this new band that opened for Opeth in IIT Sarang. And he said it's an Indian band. I said, Indian rock music, it's going to be boring. It's either going to be metal or it's going to be some popish thing that you see in B4U music or MTV. So, and because majority of the Indian bands back then was like inspired by Metallica or Slayer or Megadeth, it used to be very heavy. So I
Indian
heard,
Ocean was quite popular. I think Indian Ocean was. Yeah,
I thought it was too mainstream. I
yeah,
never
yeah,
heard.
yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah. But Mother Jane was, like you said, it was
It
turning
happened at the
point.
right time. Yeah,
Yeah.
it introduced me, and then I listened to Chasing the Sun, and then I couldn't stop listening to it. I just kept listening to the guitar solo over and over again till a point of time where I can actually mumble the entire solo note for note. Even to this day, I don't even remember lyrics from the entire Maktub album, but I remember most of the solos. I can sing note for note. If you just call me, like I'll be able to do it, because that's how much I used to listen to it. That's how much I was passionate about it. And Baiju Dharmajan was the greatest guitar. It was not Jimi Hendrix, Clapton, nobody. It was Baiju Dharmajan for me. So I thought that if he can produce such beautiful sound out of this instrument, I would at least want to learn it. I may not produce the same kind of sound, but I just at least want to learn, and then I want to feel like, okay, something beautiful like that can be done. That's how I started. I wanted to learn guitar very badly. Started practicing. I used to practice because this was in college, second year, third year that time, engineering college. So after finishing the college, after I come back home and I have nothing else to do, I just used to sit and practice for 4 hours and 5 hours together. And this is not even like songs. This is just like playing the G chord and the C chord again and again till I get it right. Because that's how much I wanted to become a musician. I just wanted to be another Baiju and start my own Mother Jane and then do all those things. Just like I said, it didn't happen for a lot of
Yeah.
different reasons.
You were trying all
Uh,
of that in an acoustic guitar.
yeah, how silly, no? Yeah, because electric guitar was costly, man. My parents, like, they, of course, they didn't get me the electric guitar because they said, that, why do you want an electric guitar? No, first you learn to play in this. So I got a second-hand acoustic guitar, of which part of the money I paid from my own expense because I used to go to symposium and get all this money, try to win competitions like quiz and all those things. So I'll just go and then I'll try to win that, and they'll give me some sort of money, and I'll try to use that money to get whatever I want. I wanted to get a phone very badly. I wanted to get a smartphone very badly back then because it was just coming up. All these Android one, those kind of things are just coming up. I just wanted to get that, but then guitar happened, so I just wanted to get a guitar. So I put a little bit of my own money into that, and then my father gave me an extra money, so I got a second-hand guitar. I started playing there, playing with that, and that's how much. So to answer your first question, I don't know, I think I went so many places.
That's the whole
Anyway,
point.
so so music was always there. Music has always been there. I didn't listen to it in a very critical or analytical way, not like a buff kind of thing, wherein okay, did you look at the second interlude of this song and what exactly it is in this ragam, or it is in this scale, and they used this mode, and then the transition happened between, there is a oboe, nothing like that. I don't know, I don't do all those things. I just listen because something works and something doesn't, and I just don't restrict myself to any sort of genre. So I wanted to listen to everything as much as possible. If somebody in some internet forum says that this song is so good, I just wanted to go and listen. Maybe I might not like it at the first go, but there is a reason why people are hailing this as the greatest song. And in by that way, you discover a lot of new artists. That's when I realized that uh, not all songs need to work all the time. So sometimes some songs will work amazingly well, depending upon your mood, or depending upon some unexplainable mood will be there. No, it's not always black and white. Not going to be happy or sad at all the times. There are so many layers in between. You'll not be angry or disappointed all the time. There will be so many so for each and every mood, some songs will work, some songs will work like crazy. And then I used to realize, like, this is the song that I hated when I listened to it first, but now it sounds amazing. So I started discovering more and more. So the college time was much more productive because I happened to have friends who are also equally passionate about music. And yeah, I mean, it was always there. So the fact that it entered into my stand-up comedy routine, I think it's just an eventuality. It had to happen at some point of time, and yeah, luckily it happened. No, yeah.
Yeah, people sometimes forget, what big names Mother Jane and Aviel and, the album
Oh,
Maktub was such
oh,
a, I mean, it was huge. Like, people sometimes don't realize. And I don't know what Baiju is working on right now. I mean, it's been a
I
while
think he's
since.
working. Yeah, I think I saw a couple of videos with him and Suraj Mani doing something, but I think the band, that is the Mark II lineup, right? The which Deepu and John and Clyde, those guys. I think they're all pursuing their own independent projects. They are still there in music scene, but in a different manner altogether. So they sometimes collaborate. They do different stuff, and I don't think so. Mother Jane as a band is back yet.
No, I don't think so. Maybe.
I really wish they are. But I still remember the day when Baiju left Mother Jane. It was like such a heartbreak. And me and a couple of my other friends, I mean, we started ranting. We started feeling for it. And now I even at sometimes I used to think that when people do that, it sounds so pretentious. You're just feeling for a band breaking up. Come on, like, we have much more important things in life. But I realized at that point of time when Baiju left, and then what exactly is going to happen to Mother Jane and all this. Yeah, it's a crazy time. What you
Yeah,
said
I
is
mean,
right.
there was, I think there was Agni Parikrama in the north. I think there was
Yeah, yeah,
Euphoria.
yeah, yeah.
There was
Euphoria.
Aviel, I
Euphoria
think.
was, yeah, Euphoria and all were like much more mainstream. So when you switch on MTV, they used to come.
Yeah.
So I never realized, I never understood what is rock, what is pop, and nothing like that, because everything that
Then there
is
is indie,
non-film
then there is
music is.
indie pop.
I have no idea. I used to listen. Because when I was young, I used to listen to Bombay Vikings and all. So I had no idea. I thought that okay, they were just like pop group. Okay, everything that is non-film is called as a pop group. So Indian Ocean is pop, and Euphoria is pop. Euphoria was much more popular. I remember, and Bombay Vikings and Colonial Cousins. All these things I used to listen. Non-film music, but never like I didn't realize that there was such a big rock history in Kerala with respect to 13 AD and Avial and
Oh yeah.
Mother Jane and all these things. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Those guys are like,
I mean, Kerala, I think what happened during that time was there were a few channels. There was a channel called Rose Bowl. I don't think it
hmm
was aired outside of Kerala. But again,
okay.
extremely great production quality. Some of their videos are still available on YouTube. Where
Ah,
there was one session where singer Karthik just goes on. I mean, he is in like this exploratory thing about with Hindolam and raga based thing like Pani Vizhum Malarvanam. He just goes on and on and on about it.
oh,
So yeah,
improvises.
improvises. Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
there are some videos. I think this was before Music Mojo, and obviously Music Mojo just took it to another level. I think
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
completely took Thaikudam Bridge, and so many people came out of that, right? I mean, uh, Harish Shivaramakrishnan, Madonna Sebastian
Yeah.
also sang for Music Mojo and all of that. So it was
I don't know that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Music Mojo was. I think that was our own version of the South Indian version of the Coke Studio. No, so it is much more. Yeah, I mean, I've seen almost all the prominent musicians who are right. I mean, even Pradeep Kumar, Sean Roldan, and Kalyani Nair, and all these people, they were there in Music
Suraj
Mojo, like
Santosh.
innovating. Suraj Santosh, yeah. So they were like innovating even back then, and they were improvising. They were doing this crazy, weird a cappella arrangement of popular Tamil songs and all. Yeah, I mean that was great. I've not seen Rose Bowl, but Music Mojo I think is quite popular now.
Yeah, I
But
don't know what happened to Rose Bowl. So Rose Bowl was this really, I don't know. It was like a small channel in Kerala.
uh,
I think it used to come with one particular cable network, but it was
oh,
there for like 3 4 years and then it closed. But it had some amazing music. I don't know if you know Job Kurian, and they had a band as well. He's a very famous singer based out of Kerala. So they had a band. I think it was called Thalam. I mean, the song was called Thalam and all of that. So a lot of independent musicians came
wow.
from that period and from that channel and all of that. Yeah, it's all
Uh,
about getting opportunities, right? I mean, there was no YouTube, so this was the
Correct. The
only
TV
avenue.
time was
Yeah.
TV time was so yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because
It was very
What I've
important.
heard from mu- old timers from the movie industry is that in the 90s it was just Yeshudas, Chitra, and a few other singers who would get the opportunity. And I mean, there's a lot of conspiracy theories that they would not let someone else sing, but the reality is that the producers knew that only this is gonna sell, so they were like,
Yeah,
five songs, all of them Yeshudas and Chitra, nobody else gets anything, and there
I
may be
think
like this
that's
one odd track
yeah.
that might release and all of that.
Same thing I think with respect to all the other languages. I guess in Telugu and Tamil it was predominantly SPB, and it was Janaki and Chitra.
SPB is
Obviously,
crazy. He ruled Kannada, Telugu,
Kannada,
and
Telugu,
Tamil.
Tamil. Oh my God, unreal, no? So
Unreal,
that's the
yeah.
same thing. That's the same thing with the Yeshudas also. Because my wife is from Kerala, I could really see the impact of what exactly Yeshudas meant. Because I know that I was a big fan of Yeshudas actually. Growing up, I used to love all his Tamil songs because his Tamil songs were not. He has this knack of singing all this somber, something sometimes moody, very philosophical songs and all. Not a lot of romantic and jolly songs that SPB used to sing. So I used to love Yeshuda's songs because it resonated so much. But then I realized once I realized when I went to my wife's relatives' place and all, I realized what a big deal Yeshudas was
Yeah.
to all those people. And my father-in-law, he'll go nuts with respect to Yeshudas. He'll never say an Yeshudas song is very bad, even though it is very average. I know it is very average. I'll say, okay, what is there in this song? My wife will say it is very average, but he'll never admit it. It's such a craze with respect to Yeshudas. I never realized it anywhere else. So
Yeah,
legends, no?
talking about this somber songs, I mean, reminds me of Alexander's piece about Yeshudas and SPB. I mean,
Great, no?
yeah, I mean, Yeshudas has this bhakti tone with him, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
SPB is
Yeah,
complete.
that's why we could never. buy it. I know I because there is something when he sings songs like Amma and Radhika the Uyirile. It's such a it automatically elevates it to some sort of a devotional song kind of level.
Right.
I mean, he has sing Tanni Totti Tedi Vanda and all in Tamil also, but still, I'm just talking. But whatever Alex said is a great observation because when Yeshuda's voice comes, it's a completely different feeling that circles you. When SPB sing, SPB also has sung a lot of songs in Shankara Bharanam and all those things. That movie sung a lot of divine songs, but SPB, because he was everywhere, for people who grew up listening to Tamil music, he ruled from 80s to 90s and even during the early 2000s. He was there almost everywhere. Every hero introduction song he has to sing and all those things. And yeah, I mean, that's I think we identify like that, right? Because my wife always used to say like, if there is a song that is on Mammootty's face or Mohanlal's face, she cannot imagine anybody else other than Yeshudas voicing them. Even if it is somebody like MG Srikumar, she'll feel like, okay, it's not, it's completely out of place. It has to be Yeshudas. MG Srikumar can sing for somebody else. So she'll always say when these kind of movies and all will come, no, what is it, Nandanam or whatever it is. So, not Nandanam. That Nagumo, which movie I don't
Oh,
remember.
Chitram. Yeah, yeah.
Chitram. Yeah. So
Yeah,
she
I
will
honestly
always go.
don't think MG Srikumar was a great choice for that song because he does not have a huge Carnatic background, and I think Yeshudas would have done.
"Ah, yeah, yeah. My wife always says that, and she also says that
You
the
know,
reason
fun
that is
fact,
that.
fun fact,
Yeah,
Yeshudas has not sung for a lot of Priyadarshan movies.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so the story goes that there was a movie called Cheppu, which was remade as Nammavar in Tamil.
Ah,
So,
oh, okay.
yeah, so it was released in 1987. Mohanlal did, I mean, the role of Kamal Hassan, the college professor. And I think something happened between Priyadarshan and Yeshudas, and he didn't like the director being on the set or whatever.
Recording.
And then after that, for none of the movies, Yeshudas sang, and I think he probably sang by at the end of I don't know. I mean, he's not singing a lot of songs these days anyway, but I think he probably sang much later for Priyadarshan. But yeah, there was
Ah.
some garma garmi
I
there.
heard I heard the story to be something different. She told me like, okay, because Priyadarshan and MG Srikumar are best of buddies.
They are, but
So
some yeah, but Yeshudas has sung for Priyadarshan's earlier movies, but yeah, I don't know, something happened. Yeah,
didn't know. Gossips, theories,
it's
whatnot.
kind of yeah, that's kind of what is out there.
That's true.
But yeah.
That's true.
But what a great movie, Nammavar. I think, yeah, would
I
definitely
enjoy
recommend
it.
that.
Yeah, enjoy.
Yeah,
It's just fun. It was fun back then, but yeah, even now.
yeah. Yeah. Any favorite music directors?
Oh yeah, that was the question. No, like because I grew up with music, there was not specific music directors and all. I used
Just
to
songs.
love songs. Yeah, because that makes everything right.
You won't call
You
yourself
listen
a
to.
Rahmaniac or Rahmaniac. No?
I of course grew up listening to Rahman songs. If you're growing up in 90s, A.R. Rahman should have been a big part of your life. And believe it or not, I'm actually a fan of the late 90s and early 2000s Ilayaraja songs, which many people might not quote. Because whenever we say Ilayaraja, people always think about the 80s hits, which are of course great. So I used to like his 90s songs as well in movies like Nilave Mugam Kattu and all that. It'll be like amazing. I used to love Veera, which is again a great music, and Urepali, which is also Ilayaraja. I love those songs. And of course, Rahman, you have Rahman, I mean, getting when a new movie with Rahman music comes, getting the cassette is always like a ritual. You get it. Doesn't matter. You have to go and get it. Okay, if it is May Madam, you're going to get May Madam. And that's the first movie that made me big fan of Rahman. Not Roja because I was too young. I was like probably 3 or 4 years old when Roja came out. I don't know. Not okay, not even that, maybe younger than that.
Mm,
I think it's 92, no? Roja. Yeah.
yeah.
So I didn't realize how big Roja was for other people because everybody else was noticing Roja. For me, the movie that hit me when it comes to Rahman was May Madam. I
Margadi
love
Pove.
every song in that. For me, Minnale was like one of the best song in that album. And I just can't stop listening to it. It's such a beautiful arrangement, and of course, SPB would have. elevated that song to such a different place altogether. And so many other directors. I mean, like you grew up listening to Deva, and Deva also started producing a lot of great songs. And he obviously you go and get most of the Rajnikant movies would have been. The music director would have been Deva, so you get those character cassettes as well. So I was not particularly a fan of a music director. I was particularly a fan of albums, songs, and all those things. And I think that was much more convenient. Sometimes, just to pick fights with friends, I used to claim that I'm an Raja fan. Yeah, all those things.
Yeah.
But that's not exactly the case.
Yeah, I
Same goes with
love.
Haris Jaraj, which, like, when Haris Jaraj came, I was in my teens. That's the time when Haris Jaraj came, and Minale was such a great album. You cannot pick one good song from that album. That's even the smaller songs that comes here and there. They were amazing. That's the first time when I got the cassette, and there were like these BGM tracks kind of things were there, and it was great. After a long period of this A.R. Rahman domination, you get to listen to a music director who's coming, and then, like, in the first movie itself, making such a big impact. At the same time, Yuvan Shankar Raja was producing hits back to back. It was such a great period to be alive, discovering these music directors one by one, them producing gems back to back. It was crazy.
I have to tell you, your imitation of Yuvan Shankar Raja is the best I've ever seen. Oh my God!
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I think there's one of I don't quite remember what, but you just nail it. Yeah, I think it's one of the
Ah,
best pieces. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, and talking about albums, I think Deva Asai was fantastic, and
Oh
uh,
yeah,
yeah, and Ilayaraja, one of the obviously Tevar Magan was a fantastic album of Ilayaraja, and
yeah, of course.
there are these songs like Mare Varudhu Kudai Konduva, and all of that.
Yeah,
Phenomenal songs, yeah. How do you like the music these days after the Santosh Narayans and Anirudh have come along? Like, do you like this is something that I deal with me and some of my chitapas, dad's brothers, and they I feel like some of them are stuck in time. The songs that you grow up with is ultimately what you end up singing. And I have realized that about myself as well. Like, favorite songs are usually from the 90s and all of that. I mean, obviously, there are few songs that are nice, like Maru Arte was something that was amazing. And all of that. But what do you have to say about the music these days?
See, of course, the boomer talk would be like the music back then was so good. Music these days, oh my God, it's too much of noise. I don't want to sound like that. See, I, of course, like what you said, every music director, they got there at that stage because they are so talented and they can produce a lot of great stuff. The one aspect of music which I feel is not something that I'm too passionate about, or I can say that I
Not a fan
like
of.
too much. Not a fan of. Also, I can say, which is that uh, I think there is a pattern where I don't know who, but they want to extract every ounce from a music director as soon as possible because he produced a big hit or because he did something good.
Yeah, do you think
So
Anirudh is being overused?
Anirudh, yeah, definitely is. Anirudh, I think he needs some space because uh, 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 familiarity sort of it breeds contempt. No, so that's exactly what happened when you put him in back to back in all the movies, and it's only his sounds and his voice. People started critiquing, like, okay, the music for this movie is not good, the song for this is not good, and all these things. You cannot say that about a music director who has given so many hits at various points of time. I think everybody needs space because it's ultimately a creative space. If you keep pushing them, or maybe it's the music director's call, I don't know. I cannot even put my finger on that. But you cannot keep manufacturing music after the other because that's what you end up doing when you have so much pressure. People will quote Ilayaraja as an example, like he did this. See, there are always freak geniuses that happen once in a while, but that's not a pattern. That's not going to be an everyday issue. So, if Ilayaraja has done it, we just have to appreciate the fact that we get to listen to such a genius for a very long time. So that's all. Stop it there. expecting everybody to be in the same way is ridiculous, because everybody needs their own time and everybody needs their own space. Everybody said Santosh Narayanan also is not like, I don't know where he is, I don't know what he's doing. But right now, you come and see the reviews that he's getting for his Jigarganda Double X, and everybody's raving about his music. Why? Because he has the talent. He definitely will be able to produce.
You know,
Same goes with Anirudh. Same goes with any music director. Yeah.
I'm
So
quietly laughing because I mean whoever listens to this on audio might not see this, but I'm laughing because when you mentioned Santosh Narayan, it
you're
I
listening to the voice.
automatically no, I automatically thought about you imitating Santosh Narayan and oh my
I
god.
I I had, see, this is what is very lucky for me. So when you mentioned about Yuvan, when you mentioned about Santosh Nan, I had the chance to perform the same exact same bits in front of them. So, and they were such good sports. They were really really fun, and I had a chance to perform my imitation of Demon songs in front of Demon in my own show. So thinking about it now, it feels very surreal. But back then, it was just like occurrence, and these guys were so chill, because I know that I'm not qualified enough to critique any of their work. And I know that I'm just doing this for fun because it's just an observation. And they also realize the same thing. They are, because they also like this kind of fun, because it's not any sort of intellectual sort of putting down or something like that. I know that this guy is just having fun with some of the stuff. So they also enjoyed it. So those moments are like, yeah, I mean, I always cherish. But
Yeah, I
back to
think
what I'm trying, yeah,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead, go
that
ahead.
thing is there. That thing is there. So a lot of music directors, when they give one hit, I think they're being over. And it's not just about music director; it's about anybody. You just go to a content creator on Instagram, their reel might get viral, and then immediately there is a pressure for that content creator to do 10 reels, 20 reels in a span of 5 days. Like, that's ridiculous, no? You cannot keep putting out something like that every day, because you then uh, you might even end up hating whatever that you liked in the first place. So I
Yeah.
think when it comes to creative field, it's just my opinion. I don't know how correct or wrong I am. I think every creator, every artist needs to be given some sort of space or room to create their magic. So when you listen to stories like, we even listen to stories back then, no, like Kamal Hassan and Ilayaraja and Wali and all talking about how to do Kanmani and Bodu Kadalan song. You listen to that recording session in YouTube, then it's just mind blowing that something like that could happen. And then you listen to all these other music directors in US, or directors in US. They are just I listened to this entire Denis Villeneuve talk about how he got the score from, who is that? I think Icelandic composer. I forgot his name. I think Idiot Good Johnson or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
Some son. Okay, so he got
Sounds Icelandic. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So he gave that much space and time for him to work on the sounds, so, and the music and everything. You go listen to the Social Network soundtrack, and then you see how Fincher gives this room and space for Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross to work. Give that space to most of the music directors. We'll produce gems back and back to back to back to back. This kind of work pressure is not just about Anirudh, it's about any music director. If when you give that space with uh, necessary intrusions here and there, I think they will be able to produce a lot more gems, rather than just like squeezing them into a machine and then extracting every single ounce from them and then chucking them away.
Yeah, I
That's
have
what I
noticed
think.
this with comedians also, right? I mean, they come, there is a 3 4 years where they are in every single movie, and then that's pretty much it. The shelf life is too small. One thing that I've noted about singers is that I'm just gonna use Hariharan as an example. I'm biased. I'm a huge fan of his. Is that he does not sing a lot of songs. Like he will sing a song, then move on with his ghazal concerts and all of that. He'll do an odd A.R. Rahman show once in a while, and then he'll come back sing for Haris Jairaj or A.R. Rahman, and it's like wow. And then he'll take a break of an year and or whatever, and then I think max he does is like 5 6 playback singing a year, and but everything will be nice. I mean, but having said that, what is fascinating is actors like Rajnikant, Kamal Hassan, Mohanlal, Mammootty. I mean, all these guys, they used to do a ton of movies in the 80s and the 90s. I mean, now they're doing like two movies a year, or a movie a year. But I was looking at Mohanlal's filmography. In 1 year he did 36 movies, and yeah, and Yeshudas used to sing like 16, 17 songs per day, and I don't know how they managed to do it and still be consistent. And I've
I
heard,
think, I think,
yeah, and
yeah,
I've
please,
heard
please, please.
Vikram say this. So he used to do a lot of movies during his initial days, and then he was like, "I'm gonna work extremely hard for a particular movie," and then so that started with Onion, and then after Onion, he did that movie with Shreya Sir, and I forget the name. And then he did another movie after a couple of years. So he was working extremely hard, but everything else about the movie was not good, and everything bombed. Almost all of his movies bombed. And then I remember Vikram saying in an interview that this is not gonna go well, so I'm gonna do like at least 2 to 3 movies per year. So it's tough to choose, but I think you're right in saying that they can't just squeeze everything out of a music director, because
No,
there
no,
is only so much fuel left in the tank, right?
correct. So this might not be the case with everybody. So I remember listening to Jay Mohan at one point of time. So he mentioned, uh, I think somebody was asking him a question about writer's block or something. So he said there was a phase in his life where he couldn't stop writing. So it's just that every day he just wanted to write and write and write and write and write and write and write. Maybe some artists might have that urge to go back to back to back to back again. Like what you said, singing 16, 17 songs a day is unreal, because after we finish this talking, our throats will get sore. The fact that he was able to do that, same goes with SPB. Like how did he manage to sing so many songs across languages? And I don't know how many recording sessions he did. So same case with Chitra, Janaki, or anybody like that. Same case with, like, what we mentioned about Ilayaraja, the fact that he was able to create music including background scores for movies under a day, it's unreal. But what we have to understand is what is the how exactly that creative space work, only the artist will know. So beyond that, when you start forcing, they might not be able to produce it. If you look at the contrast between him and the period of AR Rahman, that's why there is a market difference. This is why I always laugh at people comparing both of them, because it is pointless. Because it's the artist decides how their creative process works. It's not anybody else. If they produce a hit, if you go them to ask, okay, you gave a hit, no, now give another hit for this movie, maybe that artist might not be able to do. Maybe they need that headspace, or maybe they need to clear the headspace that they were in the previous movie. Maybe they were, but some artists might be able to do that. Some artists might be able to do, okay, I can switch like this, I can switch like that. I think it's some Indian actor only who said, no, like, when talking about method acting, he said, "I don't understand what method acting is.
Mm.
I When the
Mohanlal
camera is
says
on,
it quite
Mohanlal
a
says
lot.
it.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
exactly, Mohanlal.
Yeah.
So when the camera is on, I'm the character. When the camera is off, I'm back to who I am right now. But when you go and ask a method actor, they'll tell completely different things, because I have to be in the character for long, because that's my process.
Yeah.
So leave it up to the artist. Leave it up to them. Respect their process. If they say that they will not be able to produce something that in a short span of time, give them the space. Don't keep clouding them. Don't keep bombarding them with assignments. But uh, because of the advent of social media, like what you said, when a music director takes a break, there is always a fear of missing out, right? People think that, okay, he's out of the limelight, he is not there in the market anymore. This guy is the number one, and that number one changes every week, which is even more funny. How can you change the number one? Because what people don't understand is legacy is not something that happens over a very short period of time. It does not happen over the course of one movie week release. So that happens over a big body of work that you have to establish over a longer period of time. So I think respecting the space of the artist, the creative space of the artist, that will do a lot of wonders. You don't have to work with the same person again and again. One music director is giving a hit, great. But just because that music director gave a great album doesn't mean that that music director is going to work for your movie. Somebody else can do some magic with it that you would have never thought about it. So that process is not there. It's always about manufacturing and marketing right now. So okay, when we put this name in, we'll get this much hits, we have something to show. There is no guarantee, but that just gives a lot of relaxation to a lot of people, saying that, look, we hit 7 million, look, we hit 10 million. But ultimately, what value that carries, nobody knows. There are a lot
Yeah.
of 10 million, 20 million songs that are right there that completely gone out of the zeitgeist. That's not there in people's mind. It's not there in playlist. People keep listening to the songs that they like. People keep watching the comedy bits that they like. People keep watching the movies that they like over and over again at various points of time. Doesn't matter if something is a hit right now. It always has to be. It doesn't matter if you create one moment in a 2 hours movie. That is not how the movie works. Even if there is not even a one moment, if the movie is good, people will come back and watch it. So that
Mhm.
creative space, that when you give it to the artist, people will enjoy. People will cherish. This FOMO is a manufactured thing. That is what is driving people as well as the artist kind of insane. Is what I feel.
Yeah, yeah. I think you rightly said, and sometimes I feel like when it comes to music, like if let's say one album has a lot of songs, and one of it is like an item song, the other is like a you know mellow or like a sad song or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the item number that catches the numbers initially, but then give it 5 years and it's usually the other song, like the sad song, that may catch up here. I mean, I saw that with Kabira from Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. I think I
Ah,
loved the song initially, but it was the Batamiz Dil and all the other songs that were you know uh, getting the limelight. But slowly people started to understand how good a song Kabira is, and now it's I think people love it. Yeah, I mean, also talking about music directors, we don't know what pressure they are. I mean, I'm pretty sure they'll have a lot of pressure from people that, hey, I made you big, give me a movie and all of that. So I mean, having this constant pressure of producing content, I mean, you might know how difficult it is to produce original content, right? uh, it's extremely hard. It's extremely hard, and yeah, I've realized that with Preetham and Anirudh and a few others, that like also Arijit Singh. I think so many songs. A great singer, fantastic singer, but yeah, you feel like they have factories.
yeah.
Yeah, Jagan, lots of international tours you might have done. How has the experience been? Any memorable incidents in any of those international tours?
Memorable. Everything was memorable for a different reason altogether. So I think this show where I did, I think it started in Singapore. So that was the first international show that I did, and then it slowly. I think I did it in a lot of places. I did for the first time. I think first ever time the show happened in Canberra, and first ever Tamil show happened in Wellington, in New Zealand. So I think the one thing that I realized was there was so many. The surprising thing was how people received it. So when I started writing the show that I'm doing right now, which is Jagane Thandhiram, it's my first ever stand-up solo show special.
Very good name, by
Uh,
the way, huh?
Thank you. Everybody says this, see, but you have to come to the show to realize what exactly that name means. So yeah, it was kept on purpose. But I realized. Okay, so everybody was able to relate to what, it doesn't matter where they are, because there is something I talk about love story in this thing. It's basically a love story. The entire special is a love story. So when I talk about that, I could see a lot of people relating to so many things, and almost in every place. It's not just international, even in India too. At least there will be one couple or one person who will come and say to exact same thing that happened to me. So as a comedian, that validation is all that you look for, because it's just the audience going, I know that, I know what he's talking about, no, that recognition,
Relatability, right? Yeah.
that relatability, right? So that's what you look. And apart, see, with respect to stand-up shows, it's just the people's words that really mattered, and there are a lot of lovely things that people had to say about the show. I finished the Colombo show only recently, and that also went really well, and I absolutely enjoyed it with the
Yeah,
people there.
very interesting. How is the reaction from the Sri Lankan Tamil population? Like, I mean, we share so much with Sri Lanka.
Yeah,
How was that experience in Colombo?
amazing, amazing. I didn't, because before the show, some good people from Instagram who already seen the show, already like the show, message me saying that please don't expect a great thing from Colombo because they don't laugh at musical comedy and all. If you do music, they will enjoy. Comedy means you have to go there and tell jokes. So this is the introduction that was given to me, and even people over there, I'm pretty sure they were not sure what exactly I'm going to do over there. And I think after I performed, they said I enjoyed the show because a lot of people. For me, it's about people laughing, and everybody laughed, and it was fun. And they also said the same thing, and they said saying that uh, இவ்வளோ, not this much of connect. இவ்வளோ connect நாங்க வந்து expect பண்ணல with respect to audience because that has never happened. We have never seen audience feeling so connected with the show, not just at one point but various points of the show. They felt connected, they were able to enjoy, they were able to relate. So I think we all have this mental image or some sort of what to say, assumptions about, okay, this crowd is going to be like this crowd is going to be like this. Ultimately people enjoy. When I performed in Wellington, there was a lady who was close to 70 years old. Like she came to me and then said that I really love your Sid Sriram video. This content is very good. And I was so shocked that she spent time watching in YouTube, watching my Sid Sriram video, and then see, you never really know who the audiences are unless you go and meet them. So that kind of thing happened, and that was one of the most memorable shows that I did because I just loved the place itself. Wellington is such a beautiful place to be there, just go roam around, and then the people and the crowd that came. That was the biggest show in New Zealand that I did. I did it in Auckland as well, but the Wellington crowd was like close to 120, which I didn't expect. And it was such an amazing show, and I absolutely loved it. And yeah, I mean, so many memories, so many lovely places. And I went to did a show in London and Birmingham as well. So the most memorable thing was not the show, the that I had the chance to visit Etihad Stadium, Manchester City Stadium. So that's the most memorable moment. If my producers are watching this, they'll get so mad. Ada pavi, அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு they just feel. But still, yeah, the show went really well. But more than that, visiting the City Stadium was like crazy. I mean, and my solo show is like taking me to all these places, and I'm able to do that. So far I've heard only good things about the show, and definitely there will be a lot of places where I need to work on, where I need to make it tighter. But yeah, international tours have been just fantastic so far.
Yeah, I mean, now you are a full-time, comedian, stand-up comedian. When did you make that decision to quit your job, and when did you like? I always have this question to people who were, doing a 9 to 5 job earlier, and then they chose to do something else. Uh, how do you judge if this is going to be the right decision? Is there a lot of contemplating? Is there a lot of this thing, or you
Uh,
just go with the flow?
I didn't think it was a right decision. 2018 is when I came out of IT, but I still didn't like quit as per like become a full time stand up comedian at that point of time. So I started working for this channel called Put Chutney, which used to be a very famous Tamil YouTube channel. So it was still a regular job wherein I had a monthly salary, but the thing is, I don't have to work 9 hours every day because that's the nature of the job. It's a creative job. Sometimes you work 12 hours because you will be on a shoot, and sometimes you can just take a break and just go relax. And sometimes you can they will give you off when you have a stand up comedy show that you have to do. They'll give you an off when you have a movie to shoot because they understand that it's a creative field. So when somebody goes and does movies or some other shows, they'll get more famous, and that's actually beneficial for the channel. As long as you fulfill the commitment to the channel, it's fine. So I didn't do a direct jump. Even when going to Put Chutney, I had to actually get a pay cut. I actually had a pay cut to go there. That was the offer that was given to me because monthly I will just get only this much. So the decision was completely my wife's because
By the
I
way, I have
said
to
no.
say, Put Chutney was one of the first web series, right? Wasn't it? Kind
Yeah,
of.
they did. Yeah. At that time, there were a few YouTube channels. They all started producing a good set of web series, but Put Chutney was one among them. They did the series called Live In, and like so many people that you see today, especially Darshana Rajendran, who is right now like very famous and very good. She was It was one of her earlier roles, and there was also Abhirami, who is also, I think, Tamil in a lot of movies. And what is that movie? The Pink remake. I forgot. She was there in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was one of the earlier series, but I was not working for Putchetney back then.
Hmm.
So I was just a fan of the channel. I started working Putchetney only in 2018. So that's when it happened. So I just left the decision to my wife, and even I told her very openly, because it's just a matter that I was married, I had kids, and I told her, like, see, I know I'm passionate about stand-up comedy. I of course like it and all those things, but I don't want to uh, first of all go to a job wherein I have lesser pay just because I'll get this freedom. Deep down inside, I really wanted it, but I never really what can I say? Was brave. I was never really brave to make that decision. You to take that one step wherein you can say, okay, பாத்துக்கலாம் அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி. I've never been that guy, because I always want that financial security, because when I was growing up, my father didn't have that, because my father was, he dabbled in a lot of businesses. Sometimes he'll get a lot of money, sometimes he'll not. And there were a lot of ups and downs, and that irregularity really pissed me off. So I just wanted some sort of regularity, because I know that I'm in a family, and I have this many expenses, and I have this many EMIs which I have to do all those things. But my wife was the one person who told me, like, go and try. If you don't do it now, you will never do it. So these kind of chances will not present to you every single time. So go and try. If it doesn't work out, don't worry. There is always, you can always come back to IT, because a short break, nobody's going to say anything. But that was not the big break, actually. The big break happened in 2019 end, when Putchetney was sold to some other company and the channel was closed. The Putchetney, the parent company, was sold to some other company. So that's when I lost the job. So like, I didn't have monthly salary going on at that time, and I had to ask my wife. So now what? It's 29 at the end of 2019. So beginning of 2020, we are doing this academy. Once I asked her, now what? I'll go to job, because this is not going to work out. My wife said, take a break for 2 months. I said, no, take a break for 2 months, do stand up comedy, see what happens. She was the one who kept pushing me. And then I did. And then we all know what happened in March 2020, because I thought Jan, Feb, we were doing Academy Awards. This show is going to kick ass, and we're going to tour all the world over, maybe even US at one point of time. Who knows? We'll go and do it. And then everything happened when we did the March show. The lockdown came, everything shut off. This time I was completely down. I told her very clearly, okay, I- fine, do it. I cannot do it anymore. There is no live shows. I'm doing stand up comedy. Let me go and find a job. And that's also the time that she said, wait, wait for 2, 3 months. I know that I can manage to some extent. I will manage for 2, 3 months. If nothing is panning, nothing is working out, you're not able to get in any sort of money in this thing by doing something else other than doing an IT job, then we'll see. It's because of her I was able to. Then we started doing Zoom shows. Then I started doing private Zoom shows, and I started getting the money. So I owe a lot of, I give a lot of credit to my wife for actually pushing me, because just left to me, I would have never taken this decision, not even be a full time stand up comedian. Even in 2018, I would have not accepted the Put Chutney offer. I would have been like, let me try doing stand up comedy in part time itself. But if she had not pushed me at that point of time, she had not, if she didn't give me the confidence to go and pursue, if she didn't realize that this was actually my passion and then made me do it, I would have not done it. In that case, I think I am a bit more lucky, most of the people, because I've seen a lot of people quitting stand up comedy because their parents did not want them to do it. Their family situation didn't want them to do it. And it is totally understandable, because if my wife said, Jagan, this is too risky, don't do it, I would not have done it, because to me, this is the priority for me, not anything else. Everything comes second, passion, whatever interest or whatever it is. Because at some point of time, we can always pursue, but you cannot leave your family hanging and then do something because I have to chase art. This is my passion. That is bullshit to me, at least to me. Some people, it might not be. It is. There are like 3, 4 people dependent on you. You cannot just let them go. You cannot let go of your responsibility and randomly pursue. That's what I felt. And yeah, full credit to my wife. That's exactly how I made the decision. I would not have made the decision individually at all.
Yeah, that's a fantastic story of resilience and seeing through the bad times, and kudos to your wife and yourself for seeing it through, and yeah, finally we are back on track, I guess, with respect to live shows, with the
Yep.
pandemic getting over and all of that. So yeah, I think uh, if you see through the bad times, if you sort of dog it out, it can only get better after a point. So fantastic.
Fingers
Uh,
crossed. Always crossing your fingers.
yeah, yeah. Hope is what leads us to,
Yeah.
yeah, live our lives. Again, before we end this podcast, I want to sort of ask you about the stand-up comedy space in general. Um I'm not going to draw parallels, but let's say a business, right? If a business starts, it may have a strong moat, and it may not, and there may be always competitions, right? The will be always someone who is copying the idea, or someone else who is coming up through the ranks. Uh, do you think stand-up comedy is becoming a crowded space, or is the population, or are there are so many Tamilians and there are so many Indians that it's only going to get bigger, and there is space for a lot more people to come up? Like, how do you see that? Are you always thinking about what is new and then always be on your toes?
So I don't think so. It is crowded yet. I think the bigger problem that stand-up comedy has is exactly the opposite of that. We don't have different voices that are coming up. So we have voices from places where they have access to pursue stand-up comedy, which at least with respect to Tamil, I can say, because there are literally no open mics happening anywhere other than Chennai. Even if they are happening, it's not as big because even people who used to do stand-up comedy in Coimbatore at like 2019 or something like that, they had to move to Chennai because they know that the opportunities are there are going to get dried up. There is like one stand-up comedian who's based out of Coimbatore, but he's also doing very less shows because he cannot do more. And I think when diverse voices come into the art form, it's just going to enrich the art form. So I will never say it is crowded because I will never say it is crowded. But the thing is, what happens is people like the tag of stand-up comedy. People like the tag stand-up comedian. The title, it's very attractive to call because it means that you are actually doing something. But actually, whether they are trying to do stand-up comedy is the bigger question right now. So, because we used to go through this rigorous process, however painful or tiresome it is, we had to go through this open mic routine. We had to go through testing our materials. We had to do so many corporate shows to actually fine tune and then arrive at a particular point. Okay, say that this is what we are performing. But right now, I think uh, uh, the lines are getting dissolved between who is a sketch comedian, who is a character comedian, who is a stand-up comedian, who is just a mime artist, who is just a mimicry artist. Because everything is based out of reels right now. If your reels hit 1 million views, or if you have 500K followers anywhere, you can literally do anything, right? You can go and do a concert. Yes, you can do a dance recital. Who cares? Because you're famous anyway. People are going to come. So I think it's good that a lot of people are dabbling in comedy. A lot of people are trying out comedy. But when you try to do stand-up comedy, my only thing is that like you have to follow the process because that helps. Nothing else. I'm not saying that that is like it's not like when you start to play cricket, which is the analogy that we started. No, you just directly pick a bat and then you everybody can, if you have the money, if you have the access, you can go get a pad, helmet, thigh pad, arm pad, gloves and everything, and then take a bat, the proper English willow, and then you can give a pose, you can click reels, you can do whatever you want. But that doesn't make you a cricketer, right? You still have to go. If they ask you to play front foot defense, you have to play front foot defense. Everybody has to go through that. That is the basics. So I think that process is what is missing right now in stand-up comedy. There are a lot of people who are trying to do because again, you cannot blame the people who want to be stand-up comedians because they have they don't have any other way to what can I say? They don't have any other way to sell tickets. It's the much bad analogy. I can say it's not even an analogy. It's the fact they don't have any because they have to be famous. They have to get 60,000 followers. If they have to be a full-time stand-up comedian, they cannot just earn by doing stand-up comedy. They have to do branded contents. They have to do this videos and that videos, and they will be able to do it only when they show social media following. And what puts them is it's the same creative exhaustion that happens that we talked about with respect to music directors and whatnot. And I think comedy is in that space right now, which means a lot of people are forgetting what exactly they are supposed to do. Doesn't matter how famous you are. If you want to do stand up comedy, follow the process, because that process is what is going to help. Even the greatest of the great comedians, I've heard Chris Rock actually, before doing an Oscar monologue, I think, I don't remember which year, he went to every single open mic circuit and then tested out his monologue. That 10-minute monologue, he tested it out like he tests out his comedy routines. It's Chris Rock. You know, he did not do that. It's Chris Rock doing a Oscar monologue, right? So he's already famous. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to judge. Nobody's going to go and say that Chris Rock is not funny. The reason why Chris Rock does it is because he understands the process. He understands how it helps. That is the one thing that is lacking with respect to stand-up comedy. Because a lot of people should come in, different voices should come in, but the problem is you cannot circumvent the process, and then you can just go and do a show just because you think. There's nothing wrong with it, because I used to think like that 1 year into comedy. I used to think like, oh, dude, I'm funnier than all these guys. I'm funnier than these guys who are doing 500,000 seater shows. I will do a show on my own. Who cares? But then when I did it, I realized how absolutely crappy I was, because I didn't have the experience. I did a show. I actually did a show like 2.5 years into my stand-up comedy, a solo show, 1 hour show with a lot of ideas in my mind. It didn't work out. It failed miserably. And I realized that, okay, I didn't have the experience. I absolutely lacked the experience of doing it. And that value that experience much, much more than anything else. That experience is what is going to take you to the next level. So please do come. Everybody should come. A lot of comedy quizzes should come. But don't circumvent the process. However tiresome it is, just follow the process. That is going to yield you so great results that you will never believe. That's the one thing that I wanted to say with respect to current stand-up comedy scene at this
Mm.
point of time.
So to summarize, it's about people who are seeking quick fame through reels and short form content that is somewhere taking away from the process, right? The taking away from the fact that they are not willing to toil it out, to dog it out, and I think yeah, I mean this is a perfect place to end the podcast as well, because I started talking to someone. I started talking to someone who said that they were not liking anything about the process, be it cricket or music or whatever. Tried a lot of things in life, and then
Yes.
finally, by the end of it, guess what? They are talking about the process. So this is a
Circle of life. That's it.
yeah, it's the circle of life, and I think there is no better way to end this podcast. But before we end, I would love if you could share what your future plans are, what your future tours are, what your future shows are with the audience.
Yeah. So I'm touring Jagane Thandhiram, which is my solo stand-up special. If I've not mentioned it already a million times earlier, uh,
You
so
will make
so
a great product manager.
I don't want to. I don't want to at any cost. Uh, so yeah, so that's what I'm doing right now. So the next round will start very very soon. It's just a year-end break. I finished the show in November, the last show of this year. So from next year, there are a lot of new exciting cities that are going to come outside of India. There is a lot of plans that are going on. Hopefully, I can take it to Europe, US, everywhere. Hopefully, I get the visa. Fingers crossed. I didn't get it when I was working in IT company, but now I'm getting all the visas. I hope that happens for the other places as well. And there is, I just did the biggest show in Chennai this year, which is something that I will never forget. In a place that I consider that I've always been to just as an audience member, to watch other people perform, and I get to perform on stage in Music Academy, which is such a prestigious venue in Chennai. So yeah, I mean, I will never forget that moment. So there is this one more big show in Chennai that I want to do as the final curtain call or swan song or whatever you call it for this show, not my career,
I was
hopefully.
like,
Not the career, not the career, just for this show, just for this show. Yeah. So wanted to do that, and that's exactly what is in works. And yeah, I mean, I just, once this show is done, I don't know what I'm going to do. Again, as we just discussed, start from scratch, hit open mics, build, and then let's see what it takes. That's the plan altogether.
Or like how Kamal Hassan says it, Patgala.
Adeda, exactly.
Anyway,
Thanks for not
Jagan.
saying the word before that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, of course not. Well, Jagan, it was a pleasure talking to you. I think we discussed a lot of topics, and it's going to be a challenge naming this episode, but I'll figure a way out. But
No,
yeah,
it'll
thank you
be a
so
much
much.
bigger challenge. It'll be a much bigger challenge for you to edit this episode because there
I
were
don't
so
think
many
I'm going to edit.
digressions.
I don't think
Oh,
I will
yo,
edit because that's the whole
Amit,
point of the podcast.
Amit Verma, here we come.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said this many times, but I think there are some people who love depth and uh, digressions and all of that. People love to be a fly in the wall of the of any conversation. But I say this to my friends that anyway only 5 people listen to my podcast, so I don't think it matters. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, thank you so much for your time. I mean, time just flew literally. It was fantastic. So all the best for your ventures and shows. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bala. Pleasure was mine. Thank you.